Jambo, this is Stanley Karevi with his true story again. And today I would like us to talk about, not about the animals, because in Kenya we just don't have the animals, we have people too. And today I would like to talk about my friend Peter. He's a colleague and a good neighbor. He is a safari guide like myself, and he comes from the Luo community. We have about 43 different communities of Kenya, and each of the communities has got something to put on the table. Our unity is in our diversity. So Peter comes from the Luo community, and it's a community that comes from the shores of Lake Victoria on the western part of Kenya. And the Luos are known to be very smart people. They dress smart. They live each day at a time. They are not just smart on the looks, but they are also very smart here. Most of our learned friends, the doctors, lawyers, neurosurgeons, name it, the academic giants, they come from the Lake region. In fact, they say they come from the UK, United Kisumu. So Peter, my friend, grew up in a village around Lake Victoria. He grew up eating a lot of fish, just like any other Luo in that region. And because of that, they have mastered the Queen's language. They speak eloquent English. You meet people from that part of Kenya, and they're proud of it. So he grew up in a village. His daddy had died years ago when he was a young boy. And when he sat for his elementary school examination that qualifies you to go to high school, he performed very well. The mother and the sister had a challenge of raising the school fees to pay for high school. And Peter thought that he was coming to a dead end, because in him he knew that life is like riding a bicycle. You need to keep moving to maintain your balance. And Peter was determined to go to high school. Thank God some well-wishers, some missionaries came in, they chipped in, family members contributed for his high school tuition. And after a month or so, he was ready to go to high school to pursue his education. He came from a poor background, so the mother could not afford to buy a new suitcase or a box to go to school. She donated her own wooden box for Peter to put his supplies for his journey to school. And he took a bus. It took him like 7 hours. And at that time, we didn't have a lot of buses. And our buses here are really congested. You get in there and it is full of people. Up on the carrier, above the vehicle, you find domestic animals belonging to the farmers, taking them to the farmers' market. You would find sheep, goat, and chicken up there. And inside there, mothers and fathers have got agricultural products of beans, potatoes, onions, you name it. And after a 5-6 hour ride in that bus, when you come out, sometimes you are smelling like a goat, because the goat and the sheep up there, they are checking the tires, they are peeing on the roof of the bus, and that thing is just dripping down on you. So you come out and you smell like a goat. So he got to school, everybody else was reporting at the same day, and they checked in. This was a new environment for Peter. He made friends with boys from all over the country, different communities. And he was good. He was good in making friends. He realized after about a few days, a week or so, that he was one of the few boys that didn't have underwears. He never wore an underwear before. He didn't have a boxer. He realized other boys had something beneath the school uniform, which was a pair of shorts and a pair of shirt. They used to wear something else, known as a boxer or an underwear. So he said, when I go back home for the school holidays after 3 months, I will plead with my mother and my sister to at least buy me 2 boxers or underwears so that I can look like other boys. So after 3 months, Peter went home and he gave stories of his new friends in school. This was a boarding school. You stay there 3 months, you close 1 month. So he said, everything is fine, but I'm requesting that you buy for me some underwears because everybody else is having them. It's very uncomfortable for me. And when I have to wash my shorts at night, I have nothing to put on. Because he had only 1 pair of shorts and 1 pair of shirt. And they would wash them every evening, take them out to dry in the open. Then in the morning, they would go pick them up, and that is what they wore for class. So the mother and the sister didn't know what to do because they were struggling to raise the school fees. They said to Peter, is this appropriate? Do we really need to buy this for you? We are struggling to buy books and supplies for school. And Peter said, please, kindly, just do something because I think it's not going to be comfortable for me to go back and spend another 3 months with no underwear. Blood is thicker than water, that's what they say. And the sister decided to do something for Peter. It is said nobody can change the world. Nobody. No one is able to change the world. But you can become the world to someone. And at this point, Peter's sister became the world to Peter. Because she went into her small bag where she had her underwears hidden. And she looked and picked her most favorite underwear that was red in color. Those kind of underwears, we call them samosa underwears. They are triangle in shape. They go like this and then like this. They are triangular in shape and they are meant to hold your fundamentals in shape. So that is what she picked up and took to school. Remember, it was red and it was a girl's panty that she was given. She was desperate. She took it. He took it. He went to school. What I don't know is whether he wore the panty at home or he waited until he got to school. That part I don't know. But when he got to school, he used his sister's underwear, the panty, the red one. But every time he would wash it, he would hide it under his bed so that it could dry there. Because he didn't want other boys to see that he was having a girl's panty. So every time he would put it under his mattress and cover it up. But believe it or not, some boys have a very good sense of smell. They can smell underwears. They can smell panties. They are very good. Just like a hyena. A hyena can smell a kill a long way away. They just depend on their sense of smell. And they go all the way, 5 miles away, and find where there is a kill or a carcass. Some boys are good in that because somebody must have smelled this panty. There's no doubt about it. Because how could somebody know that there was an underwear, a girl's panty, under Peter's bed. Because as he was sleeping one day, somebody sneaked up slowly and just got Peter's panty. And he stole it. Peter wakes up in the morning after shower. He's looking for his underwear that belonged to the sister. And it was not there. It was nowhere to be found. Peter decided to make an announcement. He said, I have lost my underwear. My panty has been stolen. And people say, oh, sorry, Peter, what color was it? How did it look like? Peter didn't answer that one because he didn't want them to know it was a girl's panty and it was red in color with some laces at the edges. So he said, whoever stole my panty, just know that one day I'm going to reciprocate. I will do the same because tit for tat is a fair game. I will steal yours one day, or yours will also get stolen by someone. And you will feel the pinch. So after closing school, Peter went back home. He told his sister and the mother what had happened, that he had lost the underwear that was given by the sister. Somebody must have been more desperate than Peter. How do you steal somebody's underwear? And for that matter, a girl's panty from a boy who had borrowed a panty from the sister? He must have been more desperate than Peter. The sister said, sorry, Peter, this time we'll make sure we buy you some panty, some underwear, some boxers to take to school. So 1 month off at home, it ran quickly and it was time to go back to school. And now Peter had some boys' underwear with him, 2 of them. He took them to school, he took care of them because he was afraid they were also going to get stolen. When he finished high school after 4 years, he performed very well. He wanted to join a college or university, but still there were no funds for him to pursue his education. So he came to Nairobi. He started tammacking, looking for greener pastures. And finally he ended up in Kenya Tourism College in Nairobi. And he took a course in driver guiding course, like myself. That's why he is a colleague of mine. And he is very good. Remember, he speaks the Queen's language. And he loves it. He is very proud of it. So one time he found some job in the northern part of Kenya called Lewa Downs Conservancy. While he was working there, he met the love of his wife, Joyce. And as they were dating and having some conversations, he told Joyce the story about his underwear experience and how he lost an underwear, a panty that was given by the sister. And Joyce could not believe it because she went through almost the same experience. When she was in high school, they had trouble. They didn't have access to sanitary pads, and concentrating and focusing on the studies at school was always interrupted by the monthly periods. So they said together, what can we do? Because I think there is still some people, some boys, some girls somewhere suffering the same. So out of this discussion, both of them, Peter and Joyce, they came up with an idea and they started this project to provide sanitary pads to young girls in our elementary schools in some of the rural villages. And this project grew. The ripple effect from this project reached a lot of girls. It was a noble idea. And they would raise funds, buy sanitary pads, and take them to various schools in the rural areas. And one time, as they were distributing sanitary pads to this school, Peter noticed that as everybody else was queuing for the sanitary pads, There was one girl at the farthest corner, and she just sat there looking, watching, as other girls were receiving the goodies. She didn't go. And Peter got concerned. She went to the wife and said, Joyce, one of the girls is just watching at a distance. Would you please go to her and ask why she is not coming up for this? Peter's wife, Joyce, went to this girl and she said, hi, how are you? Is everything okay? She said, I'm fine. Why are you, my friend, not coming for the pads? Are you shy about it, or what is the problem? And this girl said, I would like to have them, but I do not have anything to hold them on. It was a shock that even at that time, as Peter and Joyce were thinking about the sanitary pads, we still had some girls with no panties. And Joyce reported this to Peter, and they decided that from that point, they would not only give pads to the girls, but they would also contribute and distribute girls' panties. So they started giving them pads and panties. And they started a campaign, because it's expensive to supply these items to all these girls. So at one of our safaris, we were, myself and Peter, and we were having some guests from Portland, Oregon. It was a group being led by Christina Cooper and John Cooper from Willamette Travel. And with them, we had Joe and Nancy Weissenbergs. They are friends. And we talked about this. We explained to them how Peter and the wife were doing this project in the little villages, and they were saving lives of many. And that touched their hearts. So when they got back home, they raised money, they raised funds in the US, and they bought thousands of panties, which they shipped here in Kenya for the girls to get. Personally, myself, I drove to the airport. Peter was away on safari. I drove to the airport to collect the shipment. When I got there, the custom officers would not let me have them. They said, you have to prove what you're saying. Otherwise, we think you are going to do business with these panties and you are going to make a lot of money. You must pay custom duty for them. I had to show correspondences, email correspondences with myself, Peter, and our guests in the US for them to buy my explanation. Luckily enough, one of the lady officers came and she thought what we were doing was a good thing. And she was able to allow me to take the 3 bags home full of panties. So I got home. I brought them here. The following morning, I took them to Peter's home. And in a week's time, Peter and Joyce took the panties back home to their villages. They distributed this. I'm sure it saved a lot of girls. They were able to stay in school and focus on what took them to school, rather than being worried about what was coming in 3 or 4 weeks' time, the monthly periods. I told Peter, I think you are a great man. Because growing up in such a poverty-ridden village, and going through all what you went through, this is what planted a seed in you to help those that are less privileged in the community. As we were talking, I said to Peter, why are your people, the Luo people, why are you all very good English speakers? Because they love it. If you hear them speaking, they're just proud of it. And Peter had this story about it. He said to me, years ago, there was something in the greater Nyanza region. These are people from the western part of Kenya. These were the Luos, the Kisii, the Luhyas, Wakuria. These different communities, they had a parliament, as an assembly, where they would all gather and discuss about Kenyans' liberation from our colonial masters. They talked about boundary conflict. But every time they got together, these communities, because each community was represented, we had representatives. When they got together, when anybody got on the floor of the house, they would speak in their mother tongue. That made it very difficult for them to agree and to contribute fully on the motions on the floor of the house. When the Luos stood up to speak, they spoke frequent, eloquent English, good English. They didn't stammer. By the way, if you see somebody stammering when they are speaking English, it's not that they don't know how to speak it. It's just a way to show that they can speak more than one language. So don't laugh at me. I know my language. English is my third language. It's not my mother tongue. It's not Swahili. It's my third language. So I'm doing good. Am I not trying? So what happened? Whenever a Luo representative spoke on the floor of the house, they were very eloquent, and they went like this. Ladies and gentlemen, in front of the house is a representative from Siaya, and the floor of the house is the motion, which I think all of us need to pass, because it's going to help all of us, despite our backgrounds. It's only the Luos that could understand what he was talking about. Other communities didn't understand this Queen's language. So they agreed that everybody must learn to speak Swahili, which is a widespread language. It's a Kenyan language born in the 15th century along our coastal town. So what happened? You could not speak your mother tongue. The Luos were not supposed to speak English. Everybody was supposed to speak Swahili. And the first Luo guy, the representative from the community that stood on the floor of the house and attempted for the first time to speak in Swahili, he collapsed and died on the spot. That is why the Luos have developed a phobia of speaking in Swahili, and they are very proud of their Queen's language. And Peter today is a senior guide, a very good professional guide. And very recently he came up with a book. It's called The African Treasure. This book here, it's a coffee table book. You can find it online. If you want to learn more about the beauty of the people and the animals of Kenya,